Good afternoon and welcome to Live with Lisa. We're back every Wednesday with live streams. We're streaming simulcast on Facebook and LinkedIn. So if you're joining us for the first time today, welcome. If you're a returning visitor, you know how this goes. I do this every Wednesday live again, but I have a different guest host on with me. And today my guest host is Bill McHenry. Bill is the founder and CEO of Widgeteer, and he has served in key capacities for several high-profile companies, including, you've heard of these, Nestle, 3M, Philips, Brock's Confections, and these were all in upper executive positions, and he's responsible for growing business more than $100 million with giants like Disney, Walmart, Best Buy, and Marriott. Now he's searching the globe for the newest trends and coolest houseware gadgets and hardware products that simplify life to manufacture and distribute to major retailers. Everyone's dream, right? Certainly this audience, I would hope. So drop your questions as always in the comments at any time, and we'll begin taking them in the order that they come in just a moment. In the meantime, as a quick reminder, this is being recorded. So if you want to come back, if you have to drop off for any reason, no problem. You can come back and replay this by just going to my feed on the platform that you're watching. You could go to either LinkedIn or Facebook and find this feed. And you can continue to ask your questions even after the program by just dropping them in the comments. And I still review those and get back to you. So that said, thank you, Bill, so much for being here today. I'm excited to talk to you.
Sure, Lisa. Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it. It's nice to see you, too.
It's very nice to see you, too. It's been a while. And I know that you just got off the phone with dealing with some retail chaos. It's a crazy world out there. Can you tell us, for starters, just a little bit more about what Widgeteer is and what you do?
Sure. Well, I founded Widgeteer. I kind of like to tell the story of Widgeteer a little bit because I actually at one point had a partner, and I like to bring Ron's name up a little bit because he invented the porta potty back in 1959. He was camping with his dad and his brother. He was an engineer with GM working on air conditioning systems, and he figured there was a better way to go to the bathroom. And the porta potty was founded in Traverse City, Michigan back in 1959. So it's kind of fun, and I jokingly say now because we sell housewares and Ron started with a toilet, we've gone from one end to the other. My son who works for me always gives me a hard time and rolls his eyes. Dad's saying it again. But,
I love it though.
So anyway, so what we did, I bought Ron out about 7 or 8 years ago. In fact, he lives in Bonita Springs. I still I keep in touch with him. He's a great friend and a good mentor. We decided that we'd start looking for products and brands around the world and try and create some cool new innovation, and it started working. We sell cookware, we sell gadgets, we sell tableware, we sell giftware, we sell, I don't know, like 300 or 400 different items and have access to thousands of items. We just hired an agent from India as an example, and we're going to start selling linens. And I guess we already are selling some, but we're going to start selling more. And it just evolved over time. And one of the things that I'm really proud of is that the Housewares Association in 2013 started a program called the Global Innovation Awards. So in 7 years, and remember 2 years, well, I guess that's 8 years, 2 years they didn't have the Housewares show. We actually won a Global Innovation Award 5 times out of those 8 years, which for little Widgeteer is kind of a cool thing that I'm always proud of. And we have a couple items that will be put in that same potential of winning at the Housewares show in March. And I think we have got a good shot at winning again. So it's kind of cool. We've expanded over time. We have, we're small, lean and mean. We have 12 people on our team. And we call on most major retailers. We also are in the professional market selling restaurants, and we're in the ASIN, or no, what's it called? The ad specialty market is what it's called. So we sell premium incentive products as well. Retail is most of our business, and we call on most major retailers and independent retailers throughout the United States and Canada.
And do you do that as a rep group? Or do you take in those products and make and sell them yourself?
No, we actually buy products. So when the customer buys from us, they buy from Widgeteer. So we import all these products, just like most companies. You'll find, Lisa, as you look around, there's very few companies in the United States that sell that they actually manufacture too. Most people are, marketing companies, and they go find stuff, and that's what we do. And it's developed, based on our specs, and then we bring it in. We ship out of our warehouse in Chicago.
So you're a distributor.
You could say that, I suppose, if you wanted to. I guess I view it as we're a housewares product manufacturing company. That's how I view it, but you could say that.
And are you representing other brands, or are you starting to put your own brand on everything now?
Well, we don't represent any of the brands. We actually sell the brands. We own the brands. And we are now looking for developing a new brand of our own, where we'll develop this brand and we'll create some new products. And that's going to be in the textile and the giftable products.
Awesome. And do you license inventions from inventors to do that with, or do you only buy brands?
We've looked at licensing. I haven't found any that has jazzed me enough to do. We'd like to have it kind of fit into what we currently have.
Sure.
I always love to look. And one of the things that I was really blessed with is I started my company. In fact, that's how I met you, is I used to present to inventor and entrepreneur clubs around the country. I now don't have time to do that, which I miss so dearly or so much. But so what I've often done is I've helped inventors. If we can't do something, I always, give them, an opportunity to chat with me a bit and talk to me a little, and let me pick their brain, or let them pick my brain a little bit. And so it's kind of my little way of giving back if we can't license it.
You've always been a strong advocate for the independent inventor, and it's certainly one of the things that we've bonded over the years. Just a quick reminder to those of you who are just joining us, you're welcome to drop your questions. No invention question is off limits here. Just drop them in the chat, and we will take them in the order in which they are received throughout the program today. What would you say is the biggest mistake, Bill, that you see? Biggest reason that you've seen maybe products within your mix fail? Things to watch out for.
Well, several things. One is pricing. Unfortunately, it's priced too high. Some people love their baby a little more than they probably should. The other thing is, I think what I always tell people is you're never gonna be able to fit a round peg in a square hole, or vice versa, however you want to say it. And when I first started, I used the example. We sold a little razor. We called it the no shank razor, and it was the width of a quarter and the length of 2 quarters. And it was developed for the California corrections industry for high security inmates.
That's the name, no shank.
That's the name, no shank. And it worked very well. And we sold a lot of them before they finally value engineered it out of their assortment. But neither here nor there. My point of bringing that up is that razor, there's also spas that sell razors too, for people like you or whoever. And there's no way in the world that I'd ever be able to sell the no shank razor in a high-end spa.
Right on.
So you gotta, and the other thing I tell people is you have to really think of your product and, actually kind of forget about calling it a product, I guess is what I used to say, and think of it as a solution. So now you have this solution, whatever it is, and now you have to find someone that has a problem that your solution can solve. Right. And if your solution doesn't solve their problem, there's no way in the world they're going to buy it. It just won't happen.
And in order to solve that problem, it has to check a lot of boxes. It has to be manufacturable. It has to be shipped and merchandised and all of that. It has to be price pointed well, all of that stuff, like you're saying.
And I see a lot of people, not just inventors, but a lot of people, they'll start from the bottom. They'll say, okay, my cost is X, so I have to sell it for this. And it should be the reverse.
The other way around.
You need to find out what you can sell it for, and then figure out if you can get your costing down to a price where you make money and your customer makes money. And it's probably simple, but I always look for 5 times. And it's probably, in some cases, it should be a little higher. In some cases, it maybe could be a little lower. But if something costs you $2, you better plan on selling it for around 10. Right.
There's that markup that you have to have.
Right.
And to your point, and this is what I preach all day long at the Invention Accelerator, you invent with the end in mind. So if you understand what the end is, what the consumer needs the price point to be, in other words, what the perceived value is of that type of solution, and then the manufacturing and everything else, then you can invent something that checks all those boxes, as opposed to waiting till you get out to the far end of things and then trying to fit all of that in there, right? It's too late.
Yeah, it's way too late.
Sometimes you get lucky. I know I did in the beginning because I didn't know all that stuff when I was getting started and was successfully licensing, but intuitively I was able to work through that. Unfortunately, can't fix it when it's too late.
Well, that's a problem. And then people, they fall in love with their baby. And,
and you can't tell them. Yeah.
It's very difficult. And I've seen so many people have all these ideas, and they never follow it through. There's a dear friend of mine that, in fact, he lived in Houston. And I remember one time he told me he had 500 inventions. And I said, okay, his name was Otto Glaser. And in fact, he passed away about 3 years ago. And I said, okay, Otto, I'll sit with you. He said, I want to present them all. I said, okay, you present them all. But if I say no, you go to the next one. There's no but if.
Yeah.
Okay. So it was a long 3 hours. But then he came up to a few that actually I thought were kind of interesting. Just Bill McHenry's opinion, but and I'm like, okay, so this is what you need to do. He never did anything after that, Lisa.
Oh, that's
so you got to follow through on things too.
So how I was asking you to pinpoint: are you a manufacturer? Are you a distributor? Are you licensor? All that sort of thing. Carrie jumps in on that. Just good question. Also, sorry, wrong one. Let's try this one. When you design, manufacture, and distribute products, as well as have other distributors selling for you, what do you call your business?
Well, I basically say we're Widgeteer Incorporated. And here's our assortment of products, is what I say. I don't really need to explain what Widgeteer is, because most people understand that, and most buyers understand that if someone's presenting products to you, and they have something in a warehouse, they're either buying it, they're manufacturing it themselves, or doing something, and you just got to make sure you have all the pieces together. Right.
So, Carrie, it's funny, we get confused between the literal definitions of manufacturer, distributor, and brand. And a brand is the perceived value inherent on the packaging and all of that stuff. That's what people are buying. But the manufacturer is the one who's making the product, and the distributor is the one who's selling that product. So you might be all three. Or you might be any one of those or any combination of those. Yeah. So I hope that helps.
It's some people kind of get caught into that. And my biggest fear when I first started is I never wanted to be considered a manufacturer's rep. And
that's why you were so quick. No.
Yeah, well, I do, and I correct people quickly, because a manufacturer's rep is nothing more than we have manufacturer's reps that work for us. And it's an organization that is doing nothing but selling. And often those reps have a lot of different products they sell. So they throw a bunch of stuff against the wall and hope something sticks.
Right.
Where my team sells Widgeteer products.
Right.
And then we have different brands.
In-house. So my friend is a VP of sales at Conair, and he only sells Conair. So he's a sales rep, but he's a captive rep in that he works for the company, which is what you're referring to. Right. And then there are manufacturer sales rep groups out there, folks, that you can contract on a commission, most often on just a strictly commission basis. So it's pay for performance. And then they go out and sell it. And often they're broken down by territory. So you have different regions that especially if it's like boutique or niche type merchandise, where they have to hit a lot of small independently owned stores, versus a large retailer. Like if it's just Target, there are often rep groups that only sell into that one retailer. Right. So those are rep groups versus commissioned reps who work for you, versus distributors who buy your goods and then resell them. Right. I hope that helps. Also, Carrie asks, if you happen to choose one product today from the audience to critique, could I put my hands up for Easy Hold? Yes, you can. If we do that, absolutely. You won't be able to share it, though. I don't have the ability to bring you into this meeting. But if you want to send that to me, I'm going to, let me just pop up my, go here and book a call with me. And I would be more than happy to take a look at that. And I will do that for you, no charge.
It's always fun to look at new products. In fact, we hired an agent this week, actually, that's helping us with factories in India. And he's been presenting products to us like crazy. And it's been so fun to look at all these cool things. It's pretty cool. It's really fun.
So what do you look for when you start shopping for products to add to your line?
Well, this time what we're doing is we're looking for giftables and we're looking for textiles. So when I mean a giftable, like our Sagaform brand has a red wine carafe that, you know, you can sit in a box and you can give it, you know, as a housewarming gift. In fact, Jennifer Lawrence, the Jennifer Lawrence, who I didn't know who it was at first, but I now know. She actually listed it as it was her number 3rd choice in her wedding registry in 2019. And the thing just took off. It was crazy how fast.
That's wonderful.
So that's a giftable. And we look for products like that. And then we're looking for textiles. And one of the reasons I kind of wanted to look for textiles is because the minimum order quantities are smaller. It's a little easier to develop. And you can, I think, do it a little easier. You don't have to have all this packaging and all this other stuff. And we decided to focus on India because we hadn't done that before. In fact, we're going to also start looking at Mexico.
Good.
And we're trying to get away from China. We already buy and manufacture a lot of products in Europe, but we're trying to get away from China for a number of reasons. One is the shipping costs, but the biggest reason is the 25% tariff. It's hard to get around.
It's killing you. Yeah. Do you find better innovation in certain parts of the world based on the type of product, like textiles in India, because they are the textile hub, really, that sort of thing? Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, and they're very big in woods and marble. And gosh, we've looked at some wood products today, actually, in fact, my buyer, who I actually hired from Bed Bath & Beyond, she was like gaga. She was like a kid in a candy store. It was really funny to watch it. You know, and in fact, it made me feel better about buyers because I'm starting to now think that buyers really do truly look at products. But,
I imagine that. Question comes in from Scott. I'm trying to license my patent for a total body exercise machine. Do you know any inventor-friendly fitness manufacturers?
Oh, the short answer is no. But the long answer, to kind of give you some ideas, is, you know, I'm sure there's a fitness manufacturing association of some sort. In fact, I know that there's an association of associations. So
that's right.
So there's a million associations. So you can look at something like that. Like, we're a very active member in the Housewares Association. And they've put us in touch with all sorts of factories and brands and contacts and things. So I would suggest that. I'm sure there's a trade show you could go to. And then you have to start, you know, asking questions, you know, being careful. There's a lot of the companies, like 3M as an example. I remember they didn't take a lot of outside innovation. Mm-hmm. And the reason they didn't was they have such a huge innovation department that they were always fearful that they may have something over here that they can't talk about. And then here comes an inventor and he or she's got this idea. And they're close to potentially the same thing. And if they take the idea and then they decide they don't want it and all of a sudden launch this thing, the inventor is going to get mad and sue. So a lot of companies won't do that. Right. You know, so you have to really look and then ask around. There's some that will take advantage. You know, there's a few other companies that really truly do take advantage, but there are also some really good people too.
Right on.
You know?
Yeah, fitness. Direct response used to be a great place to launch fitness, and it still can be. Like Guthy-Rinker, for example, is inventor friendly, and they do long form. So depending on the cost of the product, if you're talking about, Scott, something that is several hundred or several $1,000s that would require a long form commercial, then you would want to work with a direct response company that does long form versus short form, which is only 2 minutes. So 30 minutes versus 2 minutes for those of you who are unfamiliar with DRTV. But my favorite place to start is really just in the stores themselves, because I want to license to companies that have the best distribution. And so I'm going to go to this big stores like Target, Walmart, and just look at the packaging, the back of the packaging, and you'll see who it is manufactured and or distributed by, and give them a call. Go to their website, pick up the phone, just call their 1-800 number and say, do you have a policy for accepting or reviewing outside innovation? Sure. And if so, what's that process? And just follow the process. Every company is different, but that's every single time I have a product in a new category, that's what I have to do.
It's a lot of research. And
it's a lot of research.
Yeah.
And I've been doing the same thing for 30 years, so it works.
You started when you were 2.
Right? Let's see here. Carol asks, hi, Carol, by the way, she's a student at the Invention Accelerator. How many ways have you helped inventors bridge the gaps between invention and consumers? Design, patent, then licensing, then production, then marketing, then fulfillment. Not entirely sure I understand the question. Do you get it, Bill?
Well, I think she's asking if I've ever helped inventors, and the answer is yes. Have I ever, I've guided them through the process. She's asking about, don't take the thing down, but like, do you get a design patent or a, what's the other patent? There's two different patents.
Design utility.
Utility. Will you need that or not? I even will argue that sometimes you don't even need a patent,
right?
Because first of all, no one is going to come after you and try and steal your idea until it's big.
That's
right.
That's
when they're going to steal it. Not when it's tiny. It would be a waste of time and money. And then then you go into the looking for the manufacturing piece. And if it's manufacturable. There's also a lot of companies like in the United States. A lot of people don't think about this, but there's a lot of companies that can manufacture here in the United States, especially with plastics. And I know a lot of those manufacturers too that are very, very good to work for and work with. And so you just have to kind of follow through the steps. But the thing I think often happens with inventors is they spend so much time and money trying to protect it. And then once they think it's protected, now they have no money left or not a lot of money left. And then they think everyone's going to do it for nothing because it's this great idea. I remember years ago, this one inventor, we did an NDA, and then he offered to let me pay him for the rights to sell his product. And I'm like, well, that just doesn't work. But it's because he was so in love with this idea. So unfortunately, it's money.
He wanted you to license it from him, is what you're saying?
No, he didn't want me to do that either. He said that basically, if I paid him a monthly fee, he would give me it would give me the ability to go present it to somebody. It was crazy.
He wanted you to be like a licensing agent, I guess. Contract you. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. And I get asked about that all the time. Do you know anybody that can help me do this? And it's just not a good business. It does not make for a good business model.
It doesn't. And what people don't realize is that it's really hard. And there's no shortcuts. There's no shortcuts. I have friends that remind me, if it was easy, everyone would do it. And the reason not everyone does it is because it's hard. It truly is hard.
Right.
And it takes twice is probably an understatement. It takes a lot longer than you thought it would. Right. And it costs a lot more than you ever thought it would.
Right.
When I started Widgeteer, I thought, well, I could probably, I've spent so much money on this company, and finally I've told people it took me 10 years to become an overnight success. And that's kind of what it does. It's just crazy. You got to entering and changing, and you got to pivot. I don't really like using that word, but you're always pivoting, you're always changing, you're always coming up with this. You're going one way and you go another, and it's just
iterating on the business model constantly. Yeah, it's true. And it's always based on some expensive mistake, some more expensive than others, but it always is based on, we need to fix this.
Yeah. Well, just like, before we got on the phone, just a minute before we got on the phone, I didn't get on right away because I all of a sudden realized there was a purchase order that we received from one of our big retailers that was wrong. And my customer service person her name is Azure. She's trying to figure out what it is. I'm Azure. I got this phone call. So I know I was just trying. So we finally figured out that it was the wrong item number on one item. And then they also didn't add a product. And had we just gone ahead and shipped it, we would have been fine because it was the wrong item number. And then I would have missed out on the one item that they agreed to buy too, because it would have already shipped.
Yeah.
So we're fiddling around with it. And it just.
And for those of you who aren't familiar with that process, was it Bed Bath & Beyond, or who was the customer, if you don't mind me asking?
It was actually Tuesday morning.
Tuesday morning. Okay. Another one. So you get these really big retailers. They have very specific and rigid rules for how the box has to come together, and even what side the printing on the box is, everything. There's like a granular process that you have to follow. And if you don't, they ding you and they'll take it off the invoice of what they owe you later. So you want to get everything right. And that's one of those expensive mistakes that we talked about.
Very expensive.
Carrie's just reiterating, and I think it's fair because I completely appreciate, like the SIC code, for example. Carrie wants to know, but when I go to fill out government forms and they ask for a definition of my business type, what definition do I put in? Right. So what's yours?
Well, like Widgeteer is a C corp.
Yeah, but no, if it's a manufacturer, a distributor, or it's clearly not a rep group, because she said she.
Well, if she's buying a product, you know, she should put down that she's a manufacturer.
She designs, manufactures, and distributes the product, as well as having other people sell it. Yeah. So
I think, you know, it's interesting.
She's a manufacturer.
I haven't had this discussion in so long because it's just common what we do.
Right.
You know? But I had kind of forgotten as we've talked about this, because inventors or people that have never done it kind of get down in the weeds with some of these questions. And it's been a long time since I've done that and thought about that. But, you know, as I look, you know, if you go walk the Houseware show in March, you could walk that show, and I guarantee you, out of the 5,000 vendors there, there's probably 100 that actually do the physical manufacturing.
Right.
Like Lodge is an example. They have all the cast iron pans. They make most of their stuff, not everything, but they make most of it. They make about 80% of it. But others like Meyer, who's
that business.
Exactly. Who's the Lifetime Brands? There's a perfect example. Lifetime Brands is one of the largest companies in our industry, and I don't think they manufacture anything. Nothing.
Right.
Nothing.
But they're technically still listed as an under SIC as a manufacturer.
Right.
So you can contract, you can outsource the actual making of your goods and still technically call yourself a manufacturer, which is why we get confused as inventors when you're trying to figure out, well, who do I call on to license? Is it the brand? Is it the manufacturer? Is it the distributor? It's really whoever sells the product is the best way to answer that question for yourself. Yeah. What they call themselves is not even relevant.
No.
It's who's selling it to the retailer. That's who you're licensing your product to. Right. So I hope that kind of ties it up in a bow for you. Yeah. And Carrie, I would say, and Bill has just concurred, it would be manufacturer is what I would list. Okay. Deb wants to know, do you take ideas as well?
Sure. I'll take any ideas you can think of. Sure.
Will you consider licensing?
So, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we just never have. You know, we've never been able to. But yeah, just send me an email. We just put it up on the screen, but I'm happy to look at that. Lisa was just showed the email. I'm not going to make any promises. What I will do is I'll forward it to my buyer, and her name is Jen Zadoff, and Jen will decide. And she's a Bed Bath & Beyond buyer.
So, what would the ideal inventor with the ideal product submit to you to give you enough information to make a good business decision about whether or not it's worth pursuing?
The easiest ones for us are somebody that has a sell sheet with a video. You know, it doesn't have to be this, you know, use your phone. You know, It doesn't have to be any costly thing, but a sell sheet with a video.
That's great.
And if they've done, what I also like is if they've done the research, you know, is it really manufacturable, and what do they think the cost would be, you know, and then what would they think that the retail price points would be. The other thing I've always said to inventors, and this is kind of fun to think about this because I haven't said this in so long, but is a lot of inventors think they don't have any competition. And a lot of them think, you know, there's 330 million people in the United States and everyone's going to want it. Well, both are wrong. You know, there's going to be a segment of the population that might want their solution. Remember, I'm not going to say product. And then there's also whether or not, you know, anyone would want to buy it. And so you got to really look into that. And if they show us that, show us how it really works, and look at the competition, you know, this is what's out there now, and this is why ours is better. That helps too.
Right on. People don't understand why I am such a staunch, well, I don't even know. I'm rigorous when it comes to this. I think it's mission critical because this is your first impression and you don't get a second chance at a first impression. And so your sell sheet not only has to have right off the bat the value proposition, so someone immediately knows. It's just like when you give a presentation, tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them, right? So what am I going to tell you? Start is the value proposition, and then a problem statement or some images of what it's like currently in the market, the current competitors, and how they fail with maybe an X through it or something, so that it's obvious to me what problem you're about to tell me you've solved. And once you get buy-in from me, gain agreement that that's a problem, you've got my head doing this, then I go, oh, so what's the solution? And hopefully my head continues to go, oh, and even better yet, wow, that's a great solution to that problem. And then your video demonstration. Oh, and the other thing I also encourage people to do is add bullets. So if you do have CAD work, and I think this is what you were saying, Bill, right? Anything that you have that supports it. So if you've done surveys or customer interviews, that reports are available. You could say customer interview reports available on request, or patent pending, and the patent number if there is one. That sort of, any of that raw data that you have that supports the opportunity to back it up on the sell sheet, I think can be packaged up very quickly and easily.
Yeah, and remember not to make it real long. You know, people don't have time. That's the other thing. Sometimes I'll get emails, you know, it's a long written email, and then the opening, you know, is 10 PowerPoint pages or whatever.
I know.
I do just pass that on to Jen.
Unsolicited too.
But we don't have time.
Yeah, no, and I feel guilty when I don't respond, or if I don't have time to read the whole thing. It puts me in a bad spot. Yeah. So yeah, and definitely don't just send someone your patent. That doesn't do you any good either.
No.
I'm not sure about this, Stefan. Bill, do you own Moha?
We are. Moha is one of the products that the brands that we bring in from Switzerland. So yes.
There you go.
It's a housewares company. It is. They're based in Geneva. And most of our products that we manufacture are done overseas in China. I think there's a couple that we do in Turkey, I think, but that's neither here nor there. In fact, one of our best-selling products is the Moha ginger grater, and I think last year we sold about 70,000 units of that thing. It's unbelievable how well that sells. So yes, exactly.
Right. Carol, yes, I hope that helps answer your question. I can see you on LinkedIn and Facebook. When I respond in the comments on this platform, it only shows up in LinkedIn. So that's why I don't post any comments, because you won't see it if you're on Facebook. And I just answer your questions verbally for that reason. But yes, we're getting you loud and clear. So let's just go ahead and pop up Carrie one more time here. Our sales are growing considerably, and frankly, I don't know how to go from a mom and pop shop to scale up. Are there resources for this? That is such a good question. You've been there, done that, right, Bill?
Yeah, you know, then it's all money is what it amounts to. It's all money and connections and trying to find the right buyer. And then you got to be sure that you can handle it. You know, I always tell people that we have the capabilities of 3M. I probably always said that, even when we didn't always have the capabilities of 3M. But what I mean by that is, if a buyer comes to me and says, are you EDI capable? Do you have the right packaging? Do you understand the vendor compliance situations? Can you supply all my stores? Can you do all these things? I now can say yes. And you need to have the ability of saying yes when you go talk to a buyer at a Walmart or any of the big box retailers. You know, a mom and pop retailer is a lot different. Although I've found that the mom and pop retailers are actually more difficult to work with than the big retailer.
Yeah. Well, there's certainly more work because you have to do one at a time as opposed to one to many. Right.
Yeah. They're a little quicker, but there are a lot of them are really demanding.
Right. Yeah. And when you say quicker, you mean they make buying decisions faster?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Carrie, I think the only thing that I would add to that is that I'm not sure what part of the world you're joining us from today, but certainly domestically, we have both at the university and at the SBDC and SCORE levels, resources that are available for you to help you build out your back office. So Bill was mentioning what you can do to build out that front end, continue to get your EDI, raise the money so you can grow your inventory, all of that stuff. But in terms of building that back office, building your team, setting up HR, whatever you need to do to scale that so that you're not running it like a mom and pop, you're hiring the right people and getting the right butts in the right seats, as they say in the book, Good to Great. I would check out the universities and look for something called a startup accelerator. Startup accelerators are a great way. It's why the Invention Accelerator is called it. I used to be the entrepreneur in residence for several, and it's a free resource, just like SBDC is, and SCORE, SCORE, which are both government-funded agencies. But the accelerators are nonprofits mostly, and you can get in and out in a matter of months, and they take that time to accelerate the launch and or scale of your business. So I know, for example, we do it here. I'm a venture mentor at Arizona State University for the Venture Devil program. And you can check that out because you don't have to be local necessarily to participate. That might be an option for you as well. Venture Devils at ASU, but look for that type of program, a startup accelerator. I think that will really help you.
You know, there's another, I don't know if she's around Chicago, but there's actually the Chicagoland Entrepreneur Center. And I have a feeling if Chicago has it, there's others that might have something like that.
There you go. They're everywhere, right? Where are you now, Bill?
Right now I'm in Florida. We have a place in Sarasota, but we're based in Chicago.
Okay. Yeah. Good choice to be in Florida instead of Sarasota today, right? Stefan, do you know of any companies similar to 3M, chemical and material-based companies, who are more open to outside innovation?
You know, there was one company, Michael Miller. I think you met Michael Miller,
NCH.
Lisa.
Yeah, we've
at
worked
NCH, and
he was
Dallas.
a guest.
Oh, was he? Okay, Michael and I are actually good friends.
He's
and
awesome.
So Michael, his company, I think NCH had some chemicals, and Michael also knows a lot of other people. He and Lisa, probably in a couple more in this inventor world, are probably one of the few people I would ever recommend or say their name out loud.
Thank you. Yeah, Michael's a good guy. And if you go back, we're in the process of listing all of these, but if you go back to my feed here on LinkedIn or Facebook, you'll see that Michael was in the last year, probably in August or September. He was on the show, so you could watch that interview, but he's with NCH, and you can look him up on LinkedIn if you want to learn more. And they do accept outside invention submissions. Good call. I wouldn't have even thought about Michael. So Bill,
yeah, he's one of the few really good guys.
I always my brain works in hard goods. I don't think about chemicals or fuel cells or, tech or whatever. It's always in those hard goods, consumer goods. Yeah. If that doesn't answer your question, Stefan, please let me know. But I think that's a good place to start. Yeah. And he's the kind of person too, that if he doesn't know, or if he's not interested or can't help you, he will try and point you in the right direction as well.
Yeah, he's really good about doing that.
Wendy asks, let's see here. Is there a way to determine while at the show who the actual manufacturers are? I'm looking for a textile manufacturer in India and I'll be at the show. And I assume that's the Chicago House
show. Yeah. I'm pausing because I'm wondering if people will actually share the name of their factory. I kind of don't think so. I don't share the names of our factories. And I guess if you ask me why, I guess I don't really know why. It's just that no one does, So probably not is my probably not. Now the way to do it, like our agent in India, I could connect you with him. You could talk to him. I'd be happy to introduce you to him.
Oh, that's nice.
So
I'll pop your email back up there. Wendy, I don't know if you got that, but Bill said that he would be happy to. Where's my banners? Oops, here we go. To point you in the right direction with who his agent is.
Yeah.
When you're walking the show, obviously no one's just going to volunteer that information like Bill said, but you might consider calling the show ahead of time. I don't know, Bill, I haven't been to the Houseware show in years. I'm planning on going this year for the first time in probably over 10 years. But do they have the international section where just manufacturers set up?
They do, although I would think this year would be harder because of all the stuff going on. you know, like Ambiente is one that I go to in Frankfurt every year, and it was canceled this year.
Yeah.
Because there was no one coming from Asia or India to Germany.
Right.
You know, so I think that would be difficult.
So maybe, Wendy, what you could do is call the show office and ask them before the show if they're going to have the factories, the manufacturer exhibitors set up, because they have their own space within a show. It's like a show within the show. So it's they're set apart from just the distributors. These are actual factories that come and exhibit because they are looking for your business. Some shows will have it, some won't. The bigger shows do, but like Bill said, right now it's not as popular with the travel issues. But if you call them ahead and if they're not doing it, then you could ask them who members are. Can you get a list of members that are strictly Indian manufacturers? That might be another way to source them. Of course, there's always Alibaba. If you haven't used that yet, you should definitely.
That's going to give you more Chinese manufacturers.
Well, you can
in India,
but you can actually, if you put textiles and then on the left, you filter it down by India. You search, yeah, you can filter Germany. You can filter anywhere in the world. And then it will only show you factories from that specific country or region that you're looking for. Pretty cool. I know. Well, I spent a lot of time researching that space. So I hope that helps. If not, please drop another question in the comments. Looks like Carol's got her questions answered. Bill's email address is up there for you now, Wendy. And again, more questions about that. Okay, here we go. Nate, being creative, compliant, and low cost isn't easy with packaging. What would be some packaging resources for companies that you might recommend, Bill?
Well, you're absolutely right. It is very, very difficult. And to get the lower cost is you got to have the bigger volume. You know, and it's amazing the difference of buying something that cost, you know, if you want 10 pieces versus 5,000, excuse me.
Right.
Excuse me. So, you know, 10 pieces of something versus 5,000, the pricing is totally different. Yeah. We use our factories to help us with packaging for the most part, but there are a lot of companies around. I know there's one in Chicago that we use. There's one in Wisconsin that I could dig up. You know, if Nate wants to send me an email, I can introduce you to a couple people that could help you with packaging here in the U.S. You know, packaging is really fun, but it's a lot. It's very hard, and you're absolutely right. The compliant part is very, very difficult. You know.
Yeah. Me too now. And Nate, I would be happy to do a free consultation with you if you want to talk about that. I have some recommendations I can point you in the right direction. But before I would make any suggestions, and the reason I don't want to do it here is because I want to understand the volume, what the product is, you know, who it's intended for. Is it retail or is it direct? All of those things make a really big difference in who I would suggest. And because I do have a list, let's chat. So I just popped up my banner here. You can go to the inventionaccelerator.com and book a free call with me if you'd like to do that, as well as reaching out to Bill so you can get a nice, strong list put together for yourself. Goodness. What advice, Bill, would you have for inventors when they're solving problems to be, like, in terms of the biggest mistakes that you see independent inventors make? So before we talked about maybe products that have failed that you've worked on, and it was price point, for example, you mentioned as a big issue for an inventor when they're first getting started. What's the most important advice that they should consider before they actually begin making and selling anything?
Well, the first thing is to realize it's not easy, you know, and you may think you have the world's greatest idea, but it is really hard to find a really unique idea. There's a lot of people in this world thinking of ways of doing things. And it's very, very difficult to do that. You don't necessarily have to have a lot of money, but you need to have some. You don't necessarily need to run to a patent attorney, but it's not a bad idea to know one and know a good one. One of the things that, in fact, Lisa and I, we've talked about together when I first started what became Widgeteer. I used to speak at these inventor and entrepreneur clubs, and I remember they were all really afraid of me because I was a sales guy. You know? as I would speak to people, there was all these patent attorneys like sharks hovering all over the place. There'd be like 5 or 6 of them in these meetings. And I would never forget, one person asked me, do I need a patent? And it was actually a patent attorney. I didn't know that. And I said, no.
I can set you up.
And when I said no, this guy just jumped all over me. He was mad and carrying on. And, so then as I kind of fine-tuned my stick a little bit, started making, I knew that I couldn't attack these attorneys. But we need to be very careful, not only with attorneys, but really anyone, really vet them out, because there's a lot of people that will say they'll help you, and they're doing it for themselves. Right. You need to find somebody that will really, truly help you.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a lot of, I don't know, it's more than just learning steps, tips, tricks, steps. We talk about them and they're important, and I even teach them. So I'm not saying don't learn the steps. You need to, but it's more than that. There's also a head and a heart space. Yeah. There's a lot of psychology that goes into this. Yeah. And it's
there is, I have 2 or 3 mentors. Well, I had 4, my dad, when he was around, but they mean the world to me. And we've always talked about it, that integrity is the one thing that I promise. I talked to an inventor today that actually has been quite successful. He's got this product. It was actually on Shark Tank. And he thinks Shark Tank is the end all of water, which I've quickly told him differently. But we were talking today, and he asked me, he says, well, how big do you think you could develop? It's 4 million, 5 million, 10 million. And I looked at him, I said, if anyone would ever answer that question, you should run.
Right. They're a liar.
They're lying. You really got to have your integrity. And then one of my mentors, in fact, he and John invented the Repel insect repellent, to tell you how much he's done. And I asked him one day, I said, John, I'm so frustrated with money. I said, do you ever not get to a point where you have enough? He looked at me and he started laughing, and he said, never. You have to find someone you really trust.
I think and for me, it just morphs too. It's not even so much that I ever have enough or that it's never enough money. It just morphs into more of something, more meaning, right? I think as we get older, especially, we start looking for things that are more meaningful, that we find more joy from, not just that can pay the bills. Now it has to matter, for example, right? That changes over time. Carrie, if we are e-tail only, can we just mock up boxes for expos? I assume trade shows.
Yeah, just make sure they look nice. We do that a lot. Every once in a while, we'll find products that are maybe in Europe or in China or wherever, and it's all that language. And we'll mock up we'll actually take. No, I don't have it in here, but we'll take like this box, if you will, and it has all the Chinese or whatever, and we'll just tape a nice looking change to it so people can see what it could potentially look at. Yeah. Or we just write it, just have a nice sheet of paper that's showing what it looks like. Right. And you're absolutely right with e-tail. You don't really have to worry about, what you ship it in as much, as long as it gets there in one piece. Like we sell a lot of glassware, and we really work with our warehouse to make sure that we don't overwrap something to where we're spending too much money on stuff. But we make sure we at least got something that's going out with that glass or whatever that's not going to break.
Yep. And some shows, like in the past when I was VP of Business Dev with Scunci, we did display boards and we'd mock up all the different, now we do it on now I understand they do it on tablets. But the big display boards where it showed up everything, packaging and pricing and tags and anything else that went in the entire program. With TC Pets, when I did the first couple of trade shows, because we weren't in production yet, everything was mocked up. So I had prototypes, and the packaging was printed on my own printer. Yeah. We just mocked it up and it looked real. And then even when I've licensed, I did that one time with Weave and Wave, the roller that I did and licensed to Scunci, because I had taken rollers apart out of the packaging and reassembled them into what would become the Weave and Wave instead. I put it back in the original retail packaging, which was this beautiful poly bag with a snap on it that opened, for rollers. And I put the rollers back in, but I had printed again on my own printer the insert. So it had a mock-up of a girl with the kind of hairstyle that it would create. It had instructions on the back. I even photoshopped their UPC code on it. So it really looked thorough with their brand. And for me, it was just a way to kind of close the gap in their thinking that I wanted that, just like when you visit a house and you make it smell like cookies so that people can feel like home. In the same way, I put their brand on it so they could feel it being a part of their own licensing program. Lots of reasons to do that. So sure, that's super helpful. Thanks, Bill.
Sure.
And thank you, Carrie, for your question. Okay, John. So good to see you, John. What do you find is the best way to find out if there is a market for your product idea without filing a PPA every time you get an idea? Also, it is not reasonable to get everyone to sign a non-disclosure.
Well, the best thing, in fact, I remember going back, and Michael Miller taught me this, go and Google it. I mean, it's just amazing. You just type in I know it sounds like duh, but it's amazing what you find. And what's so different now is that there is that now available. You can go and research it online. Don't have to even leave your house. So that's the best. The big thing is really research it on the internet. And you're absolutely right. A lot of people won't sign NDAs. It goes back to what I said earlier, where people are afraid that they may already have your idea in production anyway. So there's very few companies that will sign NDAs. I'll sign a mutual NDA. I won't sign an NDA, but I'll sign a mutual one.
That's what we use. Mm-hmm. Good advice. So John, just to drill down on that a little bit more, and you don't need a PPA or an NDA for what I'm about to suggest. No. And what I tell all our students is, from when you have the idea, before you roll up your sleeves and start breaking apart and putting together anything, have conversations, real conversations with, it could be in person or a phone call or a Zoom call, whatever, at least 35 to 50 people. I say shoot for 50 that are currently people who are using competing type products. So say you have a new hose that won't kink and get stuck on the furniture when you're pulling it around the yard somehow. You would only reach out to people who you might ask, hey, are you a gardener? Do you work in the yard? Do you ever struggle with the hose getting stuck on furniture? I need to have 15 minutes of your time for something that I'm working on. Get them on a call and ask them, what do you currently use for the problem? What do you currently use? What do you like about it? What don't you like about it? And why do you keep using it? And those open-ended questions are going to give you a wealth of information about the scope of the opportunity for a solution in the area that you are thinking about solving for. And you don't need a PPA. You're not talking about what the invention is. You're not sharing your idea with anybody. You're just getting some good insights and data to support whether or not it's worth taking to the next level.
That's a good idea. Really good idea.
Thank you. I did it, in fact, for the Invention Accelerator. And it's really interesting, because I practice what I preach. I treated it just like an invention. Before I started the program, I interviewed a whole bunch of inventors that some of them I knew, but most of them I didn't. And just said, hey, what are you currently doing? What's working for you? What's not working? Why are you stuck? Why are you still not licensed? And in learning from them and other questions that came out, or other concepts that came up through the conversation that was stimulated from those 4 main questions, one of the things that bubbled up was that people didn't know who to call when. If they needed a patent, if they needed an engineer, if they needed a 3D prototype, whatever. And to me, that was like, duh, Google it.
Yeah.
But like you said earlier, sometimes we get so far in that we don't realize how easy things are for us and how hard it is for someone who's still way back here, is just getting started on this thing. Yeah. So we included service providers, trusted service providers. So that is no longer, that box is checked. Someone doesn't have to wonder who to call when anymore. But I wouldn't have included that feature in my product if I had not had those really helpful conversations, which is why it's so important to do it before you invent anything, so that you don't over or under invent it. Right. Cool. Awesome. John, I hope that answered your question. If not, please let me know in the comments below. We're coming up on the end of the hour here. If you have any other questions, you need to drop them now. There's a little bit of a time delay, so get them in right away. Carrie would also like to know if you sell your products on Amazon, Bill.
We do. We do it a couple different ways. We sell products to Amazon. They're one of our larger customers, where we ship, where they actually come pick it up from our warehouse and they ship it to their own warehouses and they send it out. We also do a program with Amazon Seller Central, where we have a marketplace under one of my other businesses called Envision Sales and Marketing, and we sell our products online that way in a marketplace. And then we also I'm kind of honored by this too. Amazon selected us as being a very good shipper for them. So we sell for Amazon it's called Vendor Direct Fulfillment, where we have products on their website that they don't have in their warehouse, and we ship it for them as though we're them. So it's kind of cool.
I had not even heard of that particular model.
There's a lot. Amazon is amazing. In fact, my customer service manager that I was talking to just before our call, we're trying to correct that one thing I mentioned with Tuesday morning. She actually is going to quit she's going to lose some of her responsibility on orders. We're going to hire someone else, and Azure's going to start helping me with Amazon. And the goal is that she'll become more full-time with Amazon.
Wow. So and I would think yeah, Amazon's a beast. Definitely have to have people help you manage that, I'm sure. Tanya, hello, Tanya, welcome. What features or attributes, Bill, of a product make a good giftable? I like that question.
That's a good question. That makes me have to think a little bit here.
A good gift.
Well, I think it needs to be presented very nice. I mean, you're thinking about, you're actually going to go give this thing to someone, and when they open it, they're going to be like, you want someone to be like, wow. So it's got to be whatever pretty is, I guess is a good term. It's got to be a nice product. It's got to look nice. It's got to be packaged nice. It's got to look, what we sell, we want to make sure everything is very high quality looking. So our packaging or our labels or everything is very nice. So I guess the short answer to that is it depends on who you're giving it to. If it's this pen that I got from Alma College where I went, that was one of my gifts from Alma College. That's kind of cool. I mean, it's whatever. So it's whoever you're giving it to. Think about it that way is the way to look at it, I guess.
It's a hard question to answer.
Hard question.
But you did good. I was wondering where you were going to go, but you did good with that one.
I'm going to actually think about that when we hang up. I think I might think about that one a little more, so I answered a little better than I did.
I know, me too. Me too. At the end of the day, anything can be a gift, right? If someone wants it and you want to give it to them, it is now technically a gift. So is there any other particular qualifications or qualifiers for what we considered a gift category versus just general merchandise? Or is it just because maybe the answer is no?
And probably the answer is probably no. It depends on, like, our Sagaform brand. We always consider that a giftable product because of the way it's packaged and because it's really it's nice and people get that, and as a gift from somebody, and they think that's really a nice gift. I know Nancy, my wife, and I give it products out like that all the time, and we get more response from our Sagaform brand than from our Mohawk brand, where it's a spoon.
Right. So it's really in how, when Bill says package, it doesn't just mean the box that it's in. No. It means how it, what's included as a package. And so a better gift would be something that has a whole set in it versus just a single knife. It's a set of steak knives. That would be the difference between, I think, a standard item and a giftable item. Yeah. But then ultimately, yeah.
That's really an interesting question. I
love it. You got us good on that one. Let's see here. Okay, look, we're just coming to the end of our questions, and thank you all so much for everything that you've participated in today. Bill, thank you for your participation. This is fun. I hope you enjoyed it. I know I took you away from having to put out a fire, so I'll let you go back to your fire now.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Lisa. It was really good to see you. We have to get together sometime soon, too. Chicago House or Show. Okay, cool. We'll see you there. And I hope number is 1415. S1415. March 14 and 15 for. No, our booth number. The show is actually I gave the wrong date.
I have it, but it's off in the corner.
The 5th of March.
Right
is
on.
when the show is for 4 days.
Right on. Right off the Toy Fair. So thank you all so much for joining us. We'll be back next week. And I hope until then, dare to dream and imagine what's possible when powered by innovation.
Bye, Lisa. Thank you.